Hello, I'm James Wilson.
And I'm Matthew Rowney.
And on today's Who Reviews, we are going to be reviewing another brilliant episode of Doctor Who.
Yes, it's been requested to us by a lot of people, and I cannot wait to review it. We are going to be reviewing The Waters of Mars.
So now we are going to be reviewing the pitch-perfect episode, Waters of Mars, which, God, what can we say about this episode?
Beautiful episode. I mean, you can tell an episode's good when you can never get sick of watching it. You know, if it's on BBC iPlayer or whatever, I will always watch it because it's an episode I just don't get bored of at all.
Yeah, and this episode was written by Russell T Davies and Phil Ford, which doesn't surprise me at all. Two rather brilliant writers, and it doesn't surprise me at all that such a great episode took two people to write. So it was just brilliant, and it was the first time in New Who that two writers have actually collaborated for an episode, which was just brilliant. Now for the intro, which was great because it introduced Adelaide Brooke, and it just, introduced that these characters had families that loved them, and it made you care about them more. You know, it really tapped into into the reality. If you're far away from home, if you're on Mars and you live on Earth, you know, and you've got family there, you know, it just shows that these were people that missed them, and it just made them a bit more grounded. Despite being on Mars, it made it more like reality.
Yeah.
But also the cliffhanger for the opening titles was a little bit underwhelming, really.
Yeah, the Doctor, you know, was backed up and he had his hands up, and you know, some evil robot must have had him hostage.
Close up of his face, and he was like, "Oh no!" But then it turned out to be Gadget, the little robot. That thing looks like I could kick it over and it would probably explode or something.
Yeah, you know, it was as stiff as Miley Cyrus's twerking and her pancake.
Continuing.
Anyway, but yeah, the introduction first of all. David, blue suit. Enough said.
Just the blue suit. That's probably half my score right there.
But it introduced all the characters well.
Yeah.
Just by the Doctor actually giving their names, their age, and it basically going boof boof and showing that they died in 2059. It made you love these characters more in 2 minutes than it did in Love and Monsters with Linda.
Yeah, it really did. The characters were just beautifully structured, and as I said before, these characters had people on Earth who loved them and missed them, and that made them even more relatable to what we would be like if we were working far away from Earth. But the characters were just beautifully structured, beautifully done, and I just cared about them throughout. I really wanted to see them, and it was just saddening to see them die throughout.
Yeah, they were built up very well. And then we got to see, Andy, his name was, and he ate a carrot. Brilliant way to die. And he was possessed by the Flood, as they were called, and his transformation was brilliant. It was mysterious, intense, and it made me jump when he turned around. But what I loved was the direction.
Yeah,
by a certain Graeme Harper, who we've met.
Yes, name dropping a bit there. We've actually met Graeme Harper. Went out for a beer with him.
We didn't.
No, we didn't go out for a beer with him. That's me overreacting a little bit. But we have met him, and he told us what David was like. Apparently, David's very childish on set.
Is he brilliant?
Yes, brilliant. Yes, met Graeme Harper. But the direction from Graeme was just absolutely pitch perfect. Was just fab, and it was just, you know, it was like the transformation was like in the background, and how the person in front of the screen was just completely unaware that something was going to happen to them, and just the jerky movements, and the camera was out of focus while it was happening, but you knew that something creepy was happening. It added to the scare factor brilliantly.
The music was very good as well.
The music from Murray Gold, again, was just brilliant.
We always seem to praise Murray Gold.
Yes, we're going to be praising a lot of people, the writers, the director, the composer, just every fucker that worked on it. David.
But yeah, the way that the transformation occurred was very spooky. When as I said, he turned around, screamed, and it made me jump actually. And then the bit later on in the episode, the Doctor basically, they heard the scream, or like Andy, you know, roaring over the intercom or whatever, and they went to investigate. And that was when we seen Tarek, who was a character once again who we didn't know for 2 minutes. And we got to see him kind of, we call him being possessed or converted into the flood when he was on his knees and he
infected.
had his hand on his head and he was shaking.
Yeah.
You know, very intense. And once again, we'd only known Tarek 2 minutes, and yet I felt sorry for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was. That's what Doctor Who can do. I mean, it's something that Doctor Who doesn't do anymore.
Not really.
You know, build up a character into a great, lovable character, and then in a quick flash, turning them into something that you hate or killing them off. It's something that Doctor Who doesn't do anymore. Damn you, Moffat. But I've never been more scared of water than I was in this episode.
No.
I was scared to turn on my my kitchen tap for about a week. But honestly, I've never been more scared of water than I was in this episode.
It showed in Doctor Who you can create an enemy from anything.
Yeah.
Literally anything. You know, your beer fridge could probably be an enemy. You know, eat your beers, I don't know. But sorry about that. But then the chase between Andy and Tarek were chasing the Doctor and Adelaide. That was intense.
Yeah,
the music was a bit. It was
a bit over the top. It kind of, but it didn't. Don't get us wrong. That didn't at all. I was still invested in the episode entirely.
Didn't affect it at all.
No.
We got to see Maggie, who was she was converted or whatever, a bit more slowly, and she was in that 24-hour. Well, cage or whatever you want to call it, and once again another great directed transformation in the background.
Yes.
Where you couldn't really see much, and she changed, which was great. And once again, very, very intense. Music was very spooky once again.
And who can forget the woman herself who was in the main credits after David Tennant, Lindsay Duncan, who played Adelaide Brooke, and brilliantly just the character of Adelaide was just, again, like every other character, brilliantly structured. And her backstory, you know, when she was a child, she was there during the Dalek invasion of Earth, but in the end of Series 4, and it was a great connection to the rest of the Doctor's travels, and it just showed how connected the Doctor is to his other travels, and it was just great how that started her way into the stars. And Adelaide was very stern with the Doctor, wasn't afraid to, you know, really give him what for, and obviously the Doctor was standing there all cool and awesome, and she was a captain, and she wasn't afraid to just, you know, smack the Doctor across the head.
Anyone on her ship, is below her. She's above them all.
Yeah, honestly, she just great acting from Lindsay Duncan, and it was just fantastic. Really, it was. I just loved her character entirely. Yeah,
then there was the scene where the Doctor and Adelaide went to inspect the ice field, and a very, very emotional scene.
A great reference to the Ice Warriors.
Yeah, and the Doctor was describing to Adelaide that, you know, she is a fixed point in time. It described everything to us, to any fans who didn't get what was going on. It described it very nicely, and the Doctor was basically saying, well, you know, your daughter's daughter one day will fly the human race out to the stars and all this, and showing that, you know, one little human being can have such an effect, like the, you know, you stand on a butterfly in the past, it changes the future kind of effect. It just showed that the most insignificant human being, no offence to Adelaide Brooke, but just any human being can affect the human race in such a big way.
Yeah, and it really did sort of like the fixed points storyline, which has been used many, many times before, but I don't think quite as cleverly done as this episode. It really showed the consequences of travelling with the Doctor. Well, not travelling, but just being there with the Doctor.
Being at the events.
Being at the events, and the weight that is possibly on the Doctor's shoulders. You know, he was constantly just trying to leave for half of the episode. And he really just needed to leave because he needed to let these events just take its own course. But he didn't want to let such lovely people die, and it really did hurt him. And it was just great to see, you know, the weight on his shoulders. It really did come out in David Tennant's acting.
It highlighted the difficult decisions that the Doctor has to make. It was highlighted again in Fires of Pompeii, previous in Series 4, when he was basically saying, you know, I have the choice. You know, I can save Pompeii, you know, or the world. And it showed the difficult decisions that he has to make, the way he said, you know, I could go back and save my people, but I just can't. You know, as much as he wants to do things and save good people, he has to abide by the rules of time. And it shows how difficult life, you know, the Doctor goes around saving universes, seeing beautiful planets. Oh, it's great. But then there's the other side of his life, which is difficult, hard, where he's got to let good people die. And that was highlighted brilliantly. And then we got to see him given his spacesuit. They were saying, right, we're evacuating, leave. And the way he was just stood there, and the music, you know, and he was just seeing them rushing about, and he just knew they were going to die, and he could do nothing about it.
Yeah,
and the music
another great performance again from the BBC Wales Orchestra. which was just brilliant. I think just the way they do things was just brilliant. And of course was the battle of the Doctor's conscience. You know, he didn't know whether to go or whether to stay. You know,
Like he had an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other.
yeah, and honestly, it was just a battle of his conscience, and it was just brilliant to see that. And we don't get enough of that anymore.
We don't know. It just, like I said, it highlighted the different side of the Doctor's life, which, you know, in every episode we get to see the glamour and the brilliance and the variety of his life, but we've got to see the real gritty side, which was great to see again. And then he left, and as he was walking out, you know, he could hear them. The water had broke through, and he could hear them dying. And just imagine that from his perspective. My God,
yeah.
Heartbreaking. Him walking away, and he could hear them, you know, dying, saying "help, help," and he just had to walk away from that.
Yeah.
It just made you. It kind of put us in a position where we didn't know if we wanted him to go back,
Yeah.
or we didn't know if we wanted him to walk away. So it put us in the same position. It made us relate to him as well.
Yeah.
And once again, brilliant music. And then we got to hear him in the back of his head. He could hear himself saying, "I'm the last of the Time Lords." But in between that, we also got to see the demise of some brilliant characters.
Yeah, really, and I do harken back to what I said before. These characters were brilliantly structured, and I know I've said this many times before, but I can't help but say it because it's very relatable to my point. These characters had people who loved them on Earth, and just that horrible scene where the woman got infected. Stephanie Ernach or something like that. Some Russian name, I don't know. But honestly, just her children sent her a message on the computer thing, and the way she was just watching that while being infected and crying her eyes out, and it was because she knew what her demise was going to be. It really put a lump in my throat, and I really didn't know what to think. I'm welling up right now. It was a really, really sad moment, and it's just, again, great everything.
Yeah, and then the Doctor snapped, bang, you know, it was too much for him, and he thought, you know what, I'm the only Time Lord left. The laws of time are mine, I do not care. Why should I bother about what anyone else thinks are the laws of time? So he went back, and he walked in, it was like, dun, 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 and he looked so freaking awesome.
Yes.
And he basically got the TARDIS back and sent him to Earth, and that was when we got to see the inner Time Lord side of the Doctor.
Yes,
my favourite scene.
The really inner, very sinister, and everyone knows that every Time Lord, no matter how nice they come across as, they all have this sort of, which makes them closer to human as well, because every human has the potential to be a murderer, a rapist, a paedophile, all these awful things that humans have the potential to be. And it just shows that these Time Lords have, no matter how nice, even the Doctor has a sinister, dark side, which I think will come out a lot more with Peter Capaldi's Doctor later on. And this definitely came out in David's Doctor, the way he was just so sarky and very cocky. It made me hate him slightly.
It did, yeah.
It's just, he sort of, in the Doctor's mind, he sort of thought that the laws of time are mine. Can I have this moment? Can I say my favourite line? Yeah. My favourite line in the entire episode was, "We're not just fighting the flood, we're battling time itself. And I'm gonna win!" It was honestly the greatest line in the episode, and I don't know a soul alive that didn't pause on that moment where the Doctor was just walking up and there were flames below his legs.
Yeah.
I don't know a soul on earth that didn't pause that episode and save that as a picture, because that was just a brilliant image, and it gives me goosebumps even now.
It did, and he was talking to Adelaide Brooke on Earth, and she was saying, you know, no one should have that power, and he was just saying tough, and you were like, oh, you dick. You know, he was just saying tough, and he was saying, you know, all this time I thought I was a survivor, but I'm not. I'm the winner. Time Lord victorious, so selfish.
It really is.
Full of himself, you know, the inner Time Lord self really came out. Like every single Time Lord, you know, they always want immortality, they're dead selfish, it's all about them. It's the way Time Lords always have been, and people have thought, oh, the Doctor's a bit different. But deep down, he can be just as sinister as his people were.
Yeah.
And he really highlighted that, which led to Brooke's suicide.
It did. Adelaide, again, in her final moments, even just by killing herself, she showed the Doctor that he was wrong and that what he did was wrong. Obviously, the Time Lord victorious was short-lived, but it really did show that he was very much wrong. and it led into End of Time brilliantly with the Ood in the snow. Even though the Ood had no dialogue, the Doctor knew that his days were numbered.
Foreshadowed the end.
Yeah, and David Tennant, and if you guys have seen my solo video about David Tennant, honestly, this episode is the perfect example of how much of a great actor he is. Possibly one of the greatest actors in Britain today, of his generation, and this episode was just perfect. The Ood in the snow scene was one of my favourite scenes of all time. No dialogue from the Ood, but yet the Doctor knew that his days were numbered.
Yeah, got on his he got his knees and was just like, "I've gone too far. Is this it? You know, is it time?" And the dude disappeared, and he looked scared of himself. I think he was more scared of himself and what he became than his death itself. And he went in the TARDIS, and he was just like,
the last words of the episode, no,
yeah.
And then TARDIS set off, and honestly, it was just so great, to see that. So, Matthew, do you want to conclude?
Oh, beautifully well concluded. Of course I will. Put that down. Okay, my conclusion. The Waters of Mars was so dramatic and emotional, with fantastic direction by Graeme Harper, who we've met once again, unbelievable acting by everyone, especially David Tennant, and an amazing plot highlighting the consequences of time, with moments that must stand no matter how horrible they may be, and what the Doctor must go through, leaving good people to die, and the fact that he has to obey by time as well. The crew on Mars were built up brilliantly into characters that you wanted to survive, who were forced to unfairly perish at the end. The Flood could have been easily overshadowed by the intriguing plot, but weren't due to their creepy look and merciless attitude. This episode most importantly highlighted the Doctor's inner Time Lord self, showing a selfish, cocky, evil side to the Doctor we'd never seen before. It showed the desperate side of him, scared of his death and himself, and believing he's the Time Lord victorious, which was very sinister and was supported by, once again, brilliant music by Murray Gold. Tennant's untouchable acting was highlighted further, with the shocking suicide of Brooke showing the Doctor what he had done. The episode showed so many great aspects of Doctor Who that we'd never seen before, showing how much power the Doctor really has and a taster of what the Time Lords had become. It was extremely unique, intriguing and emotional, showing the consequences of the Doctor's life rather than its pros. And if I could give Blink a 10 in our previous review, then this would deserve an 11 because it's much better than Blink. But as I can't give it an 11, it's like the top of a 10 out of 10. Brilliant. I mean, I give Blink a 10 out of 10, and I kind of regret giving Blink a 10 out of 10 because this is better. Yeah. And this is definitely a 10 out of 10.
Yes. Now, my conclusion is the look of the water creatures was the scariest in Doctor Who yet, as the jerky and out-of-focus transformation to them in the background was intense and had my face buried in my pillow the whole time. Graeme Harper did, once again, another great job as director because the camera angles and out-of-focus shots were pitch perfect throughout. The characters were brilliantly structured due to the fixed point in time story device, which has been used countless times before, but never quite as great as in this episode. My favourite character in this episode was, of course, Captain Adelaide Brooke, as her stern attitude towards the Doctor was enjoyable, yet she shared the Doctor's great enthusiasm for adventure, and her backstory with the Daleks in Series 4 was a great connection to that. I praise the music from Murray Gold once again, despite the music for the running being over the top, but that didn't stop my interests for the episode at all. David Tennant's acting was one of the best performances he's given in his tenure. The Time Lord Victorious showed the more sinister side of the Doctor that David exhibited superbly, and the Ood in the snow scene was simply beautiful, where the Doctor knew his days were numbered. Overall, great acting, characters were cleverly written, and water creatures scared the living shit out of me. 10 out of 10.
Wow, a perfect episode, and it can only get better because tomorrow we are going to be reviewing our final review of the summer. We are going to be reviewing End of Time.
Parts 1 and 2. So guys, please stay tuned for Who Addicts Reviews because we will be giving you our favourite episode, me and Matthew's favourite episode of all time, End of Time. It's just a privilege to review that episode. I cannot wait.
It's been requested to us by countless people, so we've just got to. There is no time to answer comments today, guys. What we are going to do is we are going to, at the end of our End of Time review tomorrow, answer comments from the Waters of Mars review and our previous review, which was Blink.
Yes.
So we're going to have quite a big video tomorrow, since it will be our last one.
Yes.
Our last review of the summer anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and if you do, we'll sure subscribe right back.
Yes, don't forget to comment in the comment section below your views on this episode. Give it a rating out of 10, what you thought of it, and also our social networking links are on the homepage of our YouTube channel, in the bottom right hand corner of the banner. Just find your favourite social networking site and follow us on either of them.
So, I'm James Wilson.
I'm Matthew Rowney.
This has been Who Addicts Reviews.